Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Shri Kishore Kishori Ki Jai Shri Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Ho. I'd like to preface the class by taking a little safety measure. Please grant me your blessings. You're pretty much, anyone that's hearing this is probably my senior. So I would very much appreciate your compassion and your corrections and whatever guidance you can offer. It's said in our scriptures that a Vaishnav, just by glancing that somebody can purify 100,000 lives of karma and sin. So I'm a very sinful person, and part of my motive for sitting in front of all of you is that I get the wonderful purification of your glances. So thank you. And today we're reading from the 10th chapter, 10th canto, 13th chapter, verse 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, Tata Krishna Mudam Kartum Tanmatrinam Chakasya Cha Bhayayitam Atmanam Chakre Vishwa Krid Ishwaraha Tata Krishna Mudam Kartum Tanmatrinam Chakasya Cha Ubhayayitam Atmanam Chakre Vishwa Krid Ishwaraha Tata Krishna Mudam Kartum Tanmatrinam Chakasya Cha Ubhayayitam Atmanam Chakre Vishwa Krid Ishwaraha. Please repeat. Tata Krishna Mudam Kartum Tanmatrinam Chakasya Cha Ubhayayitam Atmanam. Tata Krishna Mudam Kartum Ubhayayitam Atmanam Chakre Krid Ishwaraha. Word for word, Tata, thereafter. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mudam, pleasure. Kartum, to create. Tat matrinam cha, of the mothers of the cowherd boys and calves. Kasya cha, and the pleasure of Brahma. Ubhayayitam, expansion, both as the calves and as the cowherd boys. Atmanam, himself. Chakre, did. Vishvakrit Ishwaraha, it was not difficult for him, for he is the creator of the whole cosmic manifestation. In the translation, thereafter, just to create pleasure both for Brahma and for the mothers of the calves and cowherd boys, Krishna, the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation, expanded himself as calves and boys. And the purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Brahma was already entangled in bewilderment, he wanted to show his power to the cowherd boys. But after he took away the boys and their calves and returned to his abode, Krishna created further astonishment for Brahma and for the mothers of the boys by establishing the lunch pastimes in the forest again and replacing all the calves and boys, just as they had appeared before. According to the Vedas, Eka Bahusyam, the personality of Godhead, can become many, many millions upon millions of calves and cowherd boys, as he did to bewilder Brahma more and more. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuruniditang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindha Dina Bandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatya Deshatharine. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Ginim Yat Kripam Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarana. So I'd just like to zoom out a little bit and explain where we are and what is going on. So Krishna is taking a beautiful, idyllic lunch on the bank of the river Yamuna with the cowherd boys. And they're all enjoying so much. It's described in this chapter how personal Krishna is with his dear, dear bosom buddies, the cowherd boys. And it's described that they share their food and they play jokes on each other. And so many things are there. And all of a sudden, in the midst of all of their fun, the boys, they look and they notice that the calves have wandered off. And they feel fear because they think, oh no, we're supposed to take care of them. What will we do? The calves are gone. You know, we have to go search for them. So Krishna, sensing this immediately, because he's sitting in the hearts of everyone, he stands up and he says, don't worry, my friends. I see that you're overcome by some fear, but I will fix this problem. You stay here, and you keep enjoying your lunch, and I will go and I will find the calves. No problem. So Krishna goes to wander off, and he goes to look for the calves. And it's said that he doesn't find them immediately. And basically what has happened is he's setting up a plan to bewilder Lord Brahma. Well, actually there are many angles in which he's driving at here, because Krishna, he accomplishes many things at once. So one of his objectives is to bewilder Lord Brahma. Another objective is to please Lord Brahma, because he's his devotee, and his Ishtadev is Vasudev. What's the Brahma Tene Hridaya? He, in the first verse of the Bhagavatam, we hear that Krishna directly imparted the knowledge of the Bhagavatam unto Lord Brahma. And so one of Krishna's internal desires was to manifest thousands of Vasudeva expansions, Vasudeva forms, to show Lord Brahma who he actually was, so that he could deepen his devotion. And then another, we could say, because Krishna's in Vraj and the only thing he's interested in doing is reciprocating with his devotees there and heightening the sweetness of the mellows that he experiences with them. Another And like I said, that maybe we could say the principal reason is because he wanted to please the elder gopis and gopas, who were the mothers and fathers of all the cowherd boys. Because they had this desire, that they love their sons like anything. You know, Subal's mother loves Subal, Sudam's mother loves Sudam. Everyone, you know, because Vraj is the land of love. So we can't imagine even the level of love that they have for each other, what to speak of for Krishna. And so his desire, though, because he could see in the heart of each one of these cowherd ladies and cowherd men, their desire was to have Krishna. You know, they just had this want in their heart. What if he was my son? What if I could be like Mother Yashoda and he would come to my house every night? And what if I could suckle him, the gopis would think. And, you know, what if every day when he came home I could smell his head? You know, the gopas would think. And they, at the end of the day, they would have to dismiss it because it wasn't the reality that they lived in. They had their sons, and they were just happy that they saw Krishna every day. But there was this longing in their hearts. And so Krishna, he sensed this longing, and because he wants to please his devotees, he principally did this so that he could expand himself as the cowherd boys to reciprocate with them. And it will be described later how they react. And the cows as well were thinking, oh, I just want, you know, I want Krishna to be with me all the time. Krishna is mine. The mood of Raj is actually, it's so exalted that the mood is Krishna is mine. It actually transcends this idea that I am Krishna's. That we as you know, sadhakas, or me as a sadhaka, we have to cultivate this, you know, to get away from the ego, we cultivate the understanding that I am Krishna's. But actually the Vrajvasis are on such an exalted level that their mood, I forget the Sanskrit, but their mood is Krishna is mine. And I want him more and more and more, and I want to please him. And in so many ways, he's dependent on me. He loses fights to the cowherd boys, wrestling matches. You know, he appears to be, or you know, I won't go deeply into that, mostly because I don't understand it, but he appears to be bound by the love of the gopis. He's bound by the love of the gopis. These things. So the mood is Krishna is mine. And so they want to experience this more and more. And Krishna, because that's the zenith of what Krishna is interested in. He wanted to facilitate a way to allow them to experience that. And so therefore we have this Brahma Vimohan Lila. And so, as Krishna was taking lunch, the demigods were watching from the heavens because they'd all been attracted by the Aghasura Lila. They'd all been attracted by this amazing occurrence. They saw the cowherd boys take full shelter of Krishna and just walk into this giant serpent's mouth. And then they saw Krishna come and rescue them like it was nothing. And so they were amazed because this demon was so powerful that he made all of the demigods tremble. None of them, they were all terrified. You know, and it was such a dramatic scene because they thought when Krishna went into his mouth that it was over and he was finished. And so it was very dramatic for them. And when they saw him triumph, they were just blown away. And Lord Brahma was also there watching. And so then they continued to watch. And so they saw this lunch-taking pastime of Krishna's. And they were thinking, what is this? He's supposed to be Yagya Bhuk. He only eats when we offer the cleanest, mantra-purified, amazing ghee into the fire. As per our regulations, it takes us so much hard work in order to organize sacrifices to please Vasudeva, to please Vishnu. And he's eating with his left hand. The cowherd boys, they're taking a bite, and they say, Krishna, you have to taste this. This is amazing. Look what my mother has cooked here. And they put it in his mouth. You know, there's one that's described. Madhu Mangal was drinking some buttermilk. And Krishna was saying, I want to taste that buttermilk. That must be good buttermilk. And Madhu Mangal said, no, I'm a Brahmin. I'll lose my caste. You're just a Vaishya. I'll lose my caste if I share with you, you know, as a joke. And so Madhu Mangal took a big swig of the buttermilk to finish it, you know, to tease Krishna. And he had his mouth, cheeks puffed out full of buttermilk. And Krishna just squeezed his cheeks. And Madhu Mangal naturally sprayed the buttermilk out of his mouth, and Krishna caught it in his mouth. So the demigods saw this. Those who worship Vishnu, they saw this and they thought, what? You can't do this. This is too much. This is God. What? This can't be God. So Brahma, he had some little doubt, and he was thinking, well, he's eating with his left hand. He's not. I have to test him. I have to see if he's really God. Is Krishna God? Is Krishna the same person? Is he Vasudeva? The one who enlightened me. He taught me Srimad Bhagavatam. Is this really him? And so he devised a plan that what he did is he stole the calves away when they wandered a little further, because they were eating the grass, because the cowherd boys, they first let them drink from the Yamuna, and then they left them kind of on the tree line where the grasses are, while they stayed on the sandy banks. So the calves were naturally just roaming, and they were eating the grasses and staying around. And so Brahma, when the calves came a little further, he kidnapped them. And so then, this is where we are, or this is a little bit before where we are. So then, the cowherd boys, they felt this fear, and then Krishna goes off, and he says, I'll take care of it. Krishna knows the whole thing, this whole pastime in particular, as it's going on. But in order to bewilder Brahma, he played along. So he went out and it says he searched the caves and he searched the mountains and the different regions of the forest. And while he was doing that, Lord Brahma came and he stole the cowherd boys and he hid them away. And so then Krishna came back, seemingly unsuccessful in finding the calves, and he saw that, oh no, the cowherd boys are also gone. What to do? And Srila Prabhupada states, and our acharyas state and reconfirm, that Krishna is fully cognizant of this, but again, he's playing along because he's setting up this trick. And so Lord Brahma thinks, I've bewildered him. You know, he doesn't know. How can he not know where the calves and the cowherd boys are? It's just a simple trick done by me. And so then he goes back to check. And then because he has the cowherd boys and the calves in a cave somewhere else. And he goes back and he goes to check to see what Krishna is doing. And he sees all the calves and all the cowherd boys with Krishna. Because Krishna expanded himself. But Lord Brahma is thinking, what? How is it that they're here? And then he went back to his place where he was keeping the calves and the cowherd boys in a mystic sleep. And he thought, they're still here. But how are they there? And how are they here? And he started to become bewildered. And then he realized, oh, I've messed up. This is Vasudeva. And he thinks, what can I do? How can I fix this? And so I won't go so much further because that's the topic of some other devotees' classes. But for these reasons, Krishna has enacted this pastime. Ultimately, to please the mothers and the fathers of the cowherd boys and the cows. And to both bewilder Brahma and to please Brahma. Something that's very interesting which is another angle on this story, is that there's a funny word here that's used, and Srila Prabhupada goes into this a little bit in some of the other purports, that Lord Brahma actually wasn't able to touch the calves or the cowherd boys. The bewilderment of Lord Brahma was orchestrated to such a level that Krishna not only manifested as the calves and the cowherd boys himself, but he himself hid away the real calves and the cowherd boys. And Lord Brahma took Mayic copies of the calves and the cowherd boys. This word Mayar Bhaka is there and used in some of the purports on these verses, which this word means that Lord Brahma, because he is born from the lotus, which means he's ultimately takes a material birth, he's not able to affect Krishna's Yogamaya potency or the internal potency which his devotees are a manifestation of. So he's not able to touch the cowherd boys and the calves. We see this in Chaitanya Charitamrita when the one Brahmana is lamenting because he's saying, Ravana touched Sita. Ravana touched my Ram's Sita. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went to South India and he uncovered this piece of the Korma Purana. I believe it was the Korma Purana. I could be wrong there. Forgive me. But, what it does is it explains that Sita couldn't actually be touched by Ravana because Ravana was a materialist. And so Ravana was only able to take the shadow form of Sita. So our acharyas, they use this to substantiate this point also, that Brahma, he couldn't touch the calves or the cowherd boys. There was no question of him touching Krishna's devotees, because Krishna's devotees are completely sheltered under his internal potency. They're completely sheltered under Yogamaya and under him, he himself. So it's another interesting angle that Brahma's bewilderment was completely orchestrated from step one all the way through to the finish. And then another thing that I heard when I was at the Govardhan retreats, which is another wonderful angle of this pastime, is that there's a comparison between Indra and Lord Brahma, in that we see that Krishna was very, very quick to forgive Indra. There was really no problem. He just went to Surabhi Devi, and she took him, and then Krishna said, oh, no problem. You know, you couldn't really do anything anyway. There's no question of hurting my devotees. I don't mind. Just learn your lesson. But when Lord Brahma went to apologize for all of this, when he went to apologize to Krishna, the Bhagavatam describes and our acharyas elaborate that Krishna didn't speak to him. It took a long, long time for him to pacify Krishna, because Krishna, he was either angry or he was feigning anger. He wasn't happy with Lord Brahma. And our acharyas state that he was much, much more unhappy with Lord Brahma than he was Lord Indra. But this arises a question. Lord Brahma, the only thing he did was he took the cowherd boys away and he put them to sleep. Supposedly, because we just fleshed out this other angle that he couldn't even actually touch the cowherd boys. But for his perspective, and for the perspective of Krishna teaching him a lesson, the only thing that he did was he took them and he put them to sleep. But Indra, it's described, Indra tried to kill all of the Vrajvasis. When he sent the Samvartaka clouds, he told them, this Nanda Maharaj, he is so ungrateful, he's such a rascal, that he's worshipped this Govardhan hill, and he's given up the worship of me because of some little boy. Some little boy has told him, oh, don't worship Indra. And he listened. He's such a fool. What I want you to do, he told the Samvartaka clouds, he said, I want you to go, and I want you to kill every Vrajvasi except Nanda Maharaj, so that he can suffer. And he can see that his entire family has been destroyed. And then you kill Nanda Maharaj. So Indra's intention was much, much more malevolent than the intention of Lord Brahma. And so we wonder why was Krishna more inclined to forgive Indra versus his inclination to forgive Lord Brahma? Why did it take so much more? And the answer that is given is that Indra, even though he had a malevolent intention, his actions resulted in all of the Vrajvasis coming together and spending time together. In other words, he promoted Sangha, even though he had malevolent intentions. Actually, the Govardhan Lila is known because it's one of the only places that we see all of the rasas that exist in Vraj reciprocated with Krishna at the same time. So Krishna was extremely happy that that happened. It was an unprecedented thing that the gopis could be sitting there sending sidelong glances to Krishna. And Mother Yashoda was in total anxiety, worrying, my God, my boy, is he going to be able to hold up this mountain, Govardhan Hill? And the cowherd boys were there cheering him on. And the gopas were holding up their sticks. And everybody, his servants were thinking, you know, his arms are so soft, I massage him every day. He doesn't have any muscle. How is he holding up? How is he holding up this mountain? And so all of the Vrajvasis were reciprocating with Krishna at the same time. Therefore, Krishna wasn't so angry. It was easy for him to say, you messed up, whatever. But really, it was my plan all along. I wanted to bring the devotees together. But with Lord Brahma caused separation. For a year, Krishna had to play with himself in the form of his expansions, which were looking like the cowherd boys. Perfectly so, but still, he was playing with himself. He wasn't able to reciprocate with the cowherd boys for a whole year. For Lord Brahma, it was just a moment, because one moment in Lord Brahma's time is a year, but still for Krishna, it was a whole year. And so he was really angry that you caused me to have to be separated from my devotees, for me to teach you this lesson. And so he was much less inclined to forgive Lord Brahma, and he was much harder on him, as we'll read later when we go through these chapters. I believe it's chapter 14 where it's described. So, one thing I wanted to do, because that's more or less what I could coax out of this verse and out of where we are in this chapter, and that last story was something that I heard at the Govardhan retreats, and I was extremely grateful to hear, because it was so nice. Madhavananda Prabhu told this, and he's such a wonderful devotee. But what I wanted to kind of segue in, because we're talking here, the verse in particular that we're on, this verse 18, it's talking about, and our acharyas have given in their purports, that it's talking about the desires of Krishna. And the verse itself says he wanted to please the gopis and the gopas, and he wanted to bewilder Brahma, and he also ultimately wanted to give Brahma the satisfaction of showing him that, yes, I'm Vasudeva. And not only am I Vasudeva, but thousands of Vasudevas are manifested from me. But I am that Swayam Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. So because we're talking about the purposes of Krishna and his agenda, so to speak, I wanted to talk a little bit about Gauranga Mahaprabhu's purposes and his agenda, and a little bit about the mood that we should approach Gauranga Mahaprabhu, because tomorrow's Gaur Purnim. And so it's very important that we, as we come to this day, we cultivate the proper conception, so we don't miss the opportunity until another year passes, to get Mahaprabhu's mercy on this day where he's inclined to give even more mercy. It's kind of inconceivable, because Mahaprabhu's giving infinite amounts of mercy at all times, but somehow or other, because he came on this day, he gives even more mercy. So we should cultivate the proper consciousness. And then I was thinking, when I was thinking about that, I was thinking that yesterday or today, I forgot to check because I saw it late last night. Yesterday or today was Madhavendra Puri Prabhu's appearance day. Can anyone confirm? Was it yesterday or was it today? Is it today? Today. Okay, so that's even more, even better. So today is the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri, Sri Madhavendra Puri. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that, segueing into Mahaprabhu's desires, because Madhavendra Puri, he set the stage for Mahaprabhu to come and do what he did. But first, I wanted to bring, because I've noticed in myself earlier on, before I was very lucky to take guidance from some Vaishnavas, that there can be a tendency in our society to overlook Gaur-Nitai and to look at Radha Krishna, because naturally we are Gaudiyas, we're supposed to worship Radha Krishna. But a lot of us, we can slip into this mentality that, okay, Gaur-Nitai are giving Radha and Krishna, but Radha and Krishna are the goal, and therefore we see this tendency that people have a desire to very quickly worship Radha and Krishna and go to Radha and Krishna and focus on this aspect of our philosophy. And they just kind of look at Mahaprabhu kind of like a segue. He came to give, he's Radha and Krishna who came to give Radha and Krishna. And so we, in a subtle way, we tend to overlook Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Gaur-Nitai. And so I wanted to kind of zero in on what exactly Mahaprabhu came to give and why that is special. Because if we look at this it's a rather subtle thing. In some ways it's very overt, and in some ways it's subtle. But if we look at what Mahaprabhu took from the other sampradayas, this will become a bit apparent. So we look at the Madhva sampradaya, which he actually came in. And Mahaprabhu says that he took two things. I don't remember the second one, but the first one is Dvaita. That the individual soul and Krishna are separate eternally, and that Krishna and the material energy are separate eternally, and that the individual soul and material energy are separate eternally. We took this from Madhvacharya because he established it threadbare with his commentaries on Vedanta Sutra and on the Puranas and on the Upanishads. That was his mission. So we take that. From Ramanujacharya, we took Vaishnav Seva principally, and I do not remember the second one. Sharanagati. We take the 6 limbs of Sharanagati because Ramanujacharya is the first one. That's still, to this day, the Sri Sampradaya's entire process is Sharanagati. They use different words, but the steps are essentially the same. And so in his speaking to Rup and Sanatan, he outlined this. And he took Vaishnav Seva. It's actually a beautiful thing that Ramanujacharya, when he was on his deathbed, when he was leaving his body, he doesn't die, but when he was leaving his body, he spoke many things. He gave 10 last instructions, and they go in order. The first one that he gave, he said, if you want to please me, then preach this Sri Bhasya and defeat impersonalism. And then he gave some other subsidiary things, coming down, because not everybody's a pundit, not everybody can understand Vedanta Sutra. And he said, if you can't do any of these things, my final instruction is just go, even if you don't have sadhana, even if you don't have regulation, you have no principles, find Vaishnavas and just go and sit with them. Such was Ramanujacharya's faith in Sadhu Sangha and Vaishnav Seva, that just by being around the Vaishnavas, you will perfect your life. So Mahaprabhu took that. And we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita the huge emphasis on Sadhu Sangha and Vaishnav Seva. And Prabhupada has described the Chaitanya Charitamrita as a guidebook to Vaishnav etiquette in the deepest possible ways. But then we look at the Nimbarka Sampradaya. And this is where I found this very interesting. I remember reading this maybe a year and a half ago, going over this. I believe it's in Navadvipta Mahatmya that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he elucidates these things. 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here. And we see in the Nimbarka Sampradaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took 2 really amazing things. Because in the Nimbarka Sampradaya, their Ishtadev is Radha and Krishna. So the 2 things that they took from the Nimbarka Sampradaya are Radha Dasyam. This idea that I am a servant of Radharani, I am Radharani's kinkari, I am her servant, and following directly in the footsteps of the gopis. These are very high things. And so it begs the question in my mind, and so then I had to ask and I had to research that, what is the difference? What is Mahaprabhu bringing that is special? Mahaprabhu is bringing us Radha and Krishna. He's bringing us the understanding of their realizations. A lot of us would say Mahaprabhu is bringing Radha Dasyam, or Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, Raghunath Das Goswami. They're speaking a lot about cultivating this Radha Dasyam. Raghunath Goswami goes to such an extent that he says, if there's no Radha, then I don't even want Krishna. I want nothing to do with Krishna without Radha. This whole Vrindavan, it turns into a hellish wasteland. And seeing Krishna, my heart breaks if there is no Radharani. So they speak about this, and this is, in one sense, it seems like it's the zenith of our Sampradaya. And so what's the difference? What did Mahaprabhu come to give over this Nimbarka Sampradaya? And so then we come to Madhavendra Puri Prabhu. Because Madhavendra Puri Prabhu, in some places Prabhupada states that he brought Madhurya Rasa, but then in other places he elucidates further and he explains to us that he brought service in separation. He was always meditating on where is Krishna? Where are Radha and Krishna? Oh Krishna, I'm so fallen. Why have you forsaken me? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And he would just chant and cry. And it's said that his identity is in the Yogapith in Vrindavan. He is a tumultuary. So we wonder, how is it that he's in Shantaras? He's giving this highest thing, but he's in Shantaras. But the place that he's at, the things that he sees, there's no question of not being in Madhurya Ras. He sees the most intimate things that happen in Radha and Krishna's Leela because of where he is. And so Madhavendra Puri, he laid the foundation for this Vipralamba Seva, this understanding that the actual highest understanding and what Mahaprabhu came to give is this intense feeling of longing and separation that Radharani goes through. And that characterizes Gauranga Mahaprabhu, among one other thing that I'll speak in a little bit. It characterizes the pushing of the envelope, so to speak, the unveiling of this storehouse of secrets that Mahaprabhu has come to give over and above this other sampradaya, these other sampradayas. For the Sri Sampradaya and for the Madhva Sampradaya, it's fairly easy because their emphasis, if they worship Krishna, the Madhva Sampradaya worships Krishna. The Ramanuja Sampradaya, some of them worship Krishna, but they only worship in Vatsalya Bhav at the highest. And the Madhva Sampradaya also, Vatsalya Bhav. But with this Nimbarka Sampradaya, they're preaching to worship Radha and Krishna. And so I wanted to point that out to delineate the importance of understanding why and how we should approach Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And so then, it goes a step further even, because there's service and separation, which the gopis also feel. Lalita Devi feels, Vishaka feels, they all go. They're in Kurukshetra, they're in Vrindavan when Krishna is gone for nearly a 100-year period. But then we have this verse, which is coming from Rupa Goswami himself. Anarpita charim chirat karunaya vatirna kalo samarpayitum unnatojvala rasam swabhakti shriyam hari purata sundara dhyuti kadamba sandipita Sada hridaya kandare spuratu va shachinandanaha. The direct translation is, may the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your hearts. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Specifically, Unatojwala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam. Ujwala Ras means Madhurya Ras. And Unatojwala, Unata Ujwala, it means the highest echelon of Madhurya Ras. It means the very peak, which no one else has access to. Even they may have access to Madhurya Ras. They don't have access to this aspect of Madhurya Ras, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. And what is that aspect of Madhurya Ras? Swabhakti Shriyam. This beautiful bhakti. And our acharyas, they comment that this Swabhakti Shriyam, it means Manjari Bhav. This is something that we don't talk about often, and I won't go deeply into because I'm completely unqualified for it. But it's given in Prabhupada's books, and we should at least remember it on days like Gaur Pranim, so that we can know, we can be reminded that what should I ask Mahaprabhu for? What should be my prayer? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came practically only with manjaris. All the gopis were there also, but those he chose to delineate his teachings, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and so many others, Gauraki Das Babaji, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. He came only with manjaris, because they're the ones who know that deepest aspect. They know things that even Lalita Devi does not know. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give that. Because that's the highest limit of mercy. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to show his magnanimity, and there is no better exposition or example of magnanimity than to give the absolute highest thing, which is even barred, which even some of the Vraj gopis are barred from seeing. Some of the most exalted of them are barred from seeing, and give it to those who have not only no qualification, but they have negative qualification. The people of Kali Yuga, as it progresses, they have negative qualification. So this is the Lord's sweet pastime and desire to delineate these things. And this is what Mahaprabhu has come. He's come to give us. But the thing is if we don't understand this, and if we don't meditate on it, obviously Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, Pujala Raga Patagora Vabhanga. He said, you keep these things on your head. But in order to keep something on your head, you have to know what it is and where it is, so that you can worship it. We worship these things. Pujala means worship. Ragapata, this Ragmarg Bhakti, is given by Rupa Goswami. We worship it. We don't run like we're qualified, but we keep it in our heart as our desire. One thing Danadhar Maharaj likes to say a lot, he likes to quote Voltaire. He said, what you appreciate, you become. And indeed, Rupa Goswami has said, Tatra loyam mulyam ekalam. That the only way you can go into this understanding is to stepwise develop greed to attain it. That's the only price, and in another sense, the only currency one can have to enter into this. And this is ours. This is our Sampradaya's knowledge. We don't talk about it very much because it's not meant to be, this is the secret of all secrets. It's not meant to be plastered on the front door. But for ourselves, and because Prabhupada has delineated it to us in his books, and our acharyas he's pointed us to the books of our acharyas, and as we follow our gurus, so that we can be, in our exploration of that, it's our duty to know it, because it's what's been given to us. If we don't meditate on what Prabhupada has given us in this regard, in one sense, it's a form of ungratefulness. Because if somebody gives you something wonderful and you just ignore it, you just look the other way, you look at something else, something lesser, something weaker, then that person is not going to be so inclined to give you more gifts. If somebody gives you, Mahaprabhu, we could look at it this way. Mahaprabhu has come and he has extracted a piece of his heart, the deepest piece of his heart, and he has handed it to all of us through our acharyas and through Srila Prabhupada. And if we don't take that, if we go to Mahaprabhu and we say, I need more peace in my life, I need more, I just want to be happy, I would just be content to chant my rounds every day. Obviously, we have to pray about practical things, but we have to keep our eye on the prize. To put it bluntly, we have to know what is it that Mahaprabhu came to give, because that's the only way we'll ever have any hope of becoming qualified to get it. Because the other thing is, when you contemplate that and you understand the gravity and depth and exalted nature of that thing, naturally you feel humble. Because you can't help but anything else. It's so wonderful and amazing that you realize, how did I, in my search for self-realization or whatever I was doing before I met the devotees, how is it that I stumbled across this? I had no idea. There are many things in our philosophy that are like that, but especially this. How is it that I find myself in this situation? And then you realize it is only mercy. There's no other answer. I wanted to share one quote that Madhavananda Prabhu likes to share in this regard. and in regards to this Pujala Ragapata Gaurava this keeping it on our head. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he would generally go to Radhakund during Kartik and he would speak about some of the earlier cantos of Bhagavatam. There's one famous time where he spoke about Prahlad Maharaj for an entire month. And all the Babajis were criticizing him, and all the Babajis were saying, what is this? He's speaking Vaidhi Bhakti. This is bogus. But one time, they went to Radhakund, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he said, now we will speak about Ashtakaliya Leela. He said, normally we don't speak about this because it's a secret. But you all must know that this is our knowledge. This belongs to us. It is our right. And then he said something very, very, very wonderful. He said, a devotee who has been taking Harinam for 10 years, 15 years, he should know these things threadbare. He should understand this. Now that's a very, very far out statement, and a lot of the devotees in the Gaudiya Math at that time were, there was no real scope for anything but being a hardcore renunciate. So we can imagine the qualification that they had in being with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But he's our Acharya, and he set a precedent in that regard. And so we should meditate that, and this sets a time. It's been 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I can progress. The Acharyas want me to progress. They want me to know. They want me to grow. They want to give this thing. Any one of our gurus, this is actually the only thing that they want to give. Everything else, Prabhupada said, he said, your only business is chanting Hare Krishna. And because you can't do that, I've given you so many other things. And I've racked my brain to come up with other things that you could do. But what our Acharyas want to give, what our Gurudev, what he wants to give, is this only. That's the only thing they're interested in. Indeed, we see in the Adi Leela, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he speaks about his reasons for coming, the internal reasons and the external reasons, even in the external reasons, because he has to carry out the function of Gaur Narayan. He has to come just like Narayan comes in every kalpa and takes the position that Mahaprabhu takes. And he has to give liberation, he has to give mukti, he has to give that opportunity. That's the way the yuga cycles go. But he says, I'm not interested in this love which has been feebled by awe and reverence. To me, it's not really bhakti. Bhakti is spontaneous and is full of rasa and love. And so therefore, I've come to give that. That's what I want to come to give. So, we have to keep in mind, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what does he want to give? And I found something very interesting in Adi Leela chapter 7. It's talked about, the Sankirtan movement is talked about, and how the Panchatattva, they plundered the storehouse of love of God. Because the thing is, if we don't contemplate these things, as far as they've been given to us, and make this the focus of our heart, how will we ever expect to be able to give it? How will we ever expect to be able to bring people into that if we ourselves... Prabhupada said, first save yourself. A drowning man cannot save a drowning man. And so in this chapter, it's explained that they plundered the storehouse of love of God, and because there was so many fruits, there was just an overflow. They would eat one fruit and become completely mad, and there were more fruits than they could even imagine. And so then they just started giving them away recklessly because they themselves were tasting it. And so if we don't have taste, we've seen that play out so many times in our movement, that we make the focus something else, and then the program happens. Some devotees come, which is amazing and wonderful, and I'm not downing the credibility of that. But at the end of the day, it falls apart. It doesn't work. Look at North America. We're kind of struggling, you know. Look at the 80s. Look what happened, you know. We struggled because we started focusing on all the wrong things. You know, that's painfully apparent from the past. So we have to keep in mind what we're doing. And I was thinking, we should pray that, yes, I'm very fallen, I have no qualification. But Mahaprabhu, you came to give the highest to the lowest. Please give me what you actually came to give. The best part of me, the Krishna Das inside of me, we're all Krishnara, Krishna Nitya Krishna Das. You know, we're all Krishna Das. For some of us, it's deep inside, but it's there. So that part of me wants what you came to give, and wants to reciprocate with you in coming to give that to me. So, I apologize because here I've spoken a little above my pay grade, but again, this is all of our right. And yeah, if there are any questions, comments, corrections, please. There it is.
Thank you, Josh, for the class. It was great.
Oh, thank you.
You at the beginning stated that Lord Brahma and Lord Indra and who are demigods were bewildered, and time and again they doubt about Krishna's nature. I wonder why, if they're demigods, they should have known better who they're dealing with. Because one thing is that we mortals, imperfect human beings, have doubts, don't understand, ignore. But demigods, supposedly, they have all these powers, by all means, intelligence, that who they willing with. So I'm kind of like, not confused, but wondering why this happens. Is it the writers and freedom of interpreting, and is it to exalt Krishna's pastimes? What is it?
Well, that's one answer you gave there, to exalt Krishna's pastimes. Actually, there are many different answers that are given in the individual pastimes themselves. One, particularly for Lord Brahma, I remember reading in one commentary, as for this Brahma Vimohan Leela, that Krishna actually desired all of this to happen, and so then his Yogamaya potency went and carried out the orchestration of the whole thing, and ended up bringing Lord Brahma to make it happen. So this, from one angle, because again, there are unlimited angles, all these pastimes are like diamonds, but it's like a diamond that has no limit to its facets. You just keep turning it and turning it and turning it, and you keep seeing more facets. You can never completely turn the diamond around. So one angle is that Lord Brahma, because Krishna had a desire to do this, he just played his part. With Indra, we are given different things at different times. We see that sometimes it's a lesson for us to learn about pride, that sometimes, again, it's orchestrated, and then sometimes it's explained, but this also may not be separate in that first reason. Sometimes it's explained that he genuinely messes up and his pride gets in the way. But one thing is it's difficult to judge because, like you said, their failures are kind of on a different level than ours are. It's like Jad Bharat. We see that he fell down from the stage of Bhav in the 5th canto. But our acharyas, they explain that one doesn't generally fall down from the platform of Bhav, and that Jad Bharat he's a special personality, and we're not to judge him like we would somebody else who has a fall down, because he's in the Bhagavatam, and his pastime is for the purpose of teaching us something. So it may be that he's operating under the Yogamaya potency of the Lord, that it's all, it's scripted, so to speak. Just like we see, Krishna actually scripted this entire pastime. Prabhupada said Krishna is like a player. He already knew everything that was going to happen, like an actor. Prabhupada uses player. It's a little old English way of saying actor. So the thing is especially with these Naimitika Leelas, these Leelas that happen in Bhoma Vrindavan, we always look at them as lessons that are meant to teach us. It's never not safe to look at them like everyone that's involved is an exalted personality and this is here for my purification. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that all the demons in the Naimitika Leela, they represent some nasty thing that's in our heart. But they themselves, a lot of times, or maybe we can say all the times, they're associates of Krishna. They all go back. They get Aghasura gets Sarupya Mukti. He gets a form like the Lord. You know, they get Salokya, they get Sarishti, they get Samipya. Jai and Vijay is there. They didn't fall down. They came to perform service. You know, but it's presented like they fell down so that we can learn a lesson about pride and about respecting the brahmanas and about, you know, these different things. So we should always have a healthy perspective like that. You know, it's not advisable for us to, that rascal Indra is a nonsense and he's bogus and, you know, he never learns. No, he's reciprocating with the Supreme Lord. So what is it? He does the Govardhan Leela, and then when Krishna goes up to and asks for the Parijata flower for Satyabhama, for the tree, because he brings a flower to Rukmini, but he wants to please Satyabhama with the whole tree. Then Indra says, no, I'm the Lord of Heaven. You can't have this. This is mine. And he fights Krishna. But he already went through Govardhan Leela. He already saw that I'm powerless. So something else is going on here. You know, but also it's given that, you know, we can take them literally insofar as we learn from the circumstances. You know, we not literally. Literally is the wrong word, but we take them from that kind of face value external level, insofar as we learn from the circumstances. And from that perspective, the demigods, they're in the mode of goodness, and the mode of goodness means unbelievable levels of enjoyment, which is intoxicating. Indra disrespected Brihaspati, he disrespected his guru, he didn't even bow down to him when he came in the room, you know, because he thought for a moment, I'm the king of heaven, I'm giving a speech right now, I'll just finish up and then I'll pay respects to my guru. You know, he saw him and he just thought, anyway, okay, Gurudev is there, but I'm so important and this is what I'm doing right now is very important. And then we see the hardship that he had to go through for that. So it's there. And then another angle is Indra is not always the same person. The name Indra is actually a title. The different Indras have many different personal names. We hear Indra in the Puranas and in the Shastras because it's just referring to the person in that position. So sometimes Indra is Krishna. Krishna says, he says that when there's no one qualified to be Indra, then I come and I play the part of Indra. Sometimes Indra is a devotee. Sometimes Indra is just a blunt materialist. But the thing is, oftentimes we're not given the exact information as to which Indra we're dealing with. Now, when we're dealing with the Naimitika Leela of Sri Krishna, then it's generally taken because we see that Indra is a devotee. So in that respect, because he's reciprocating with Krishna, to get Krishna's darshan is practically the zenith of our process. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives 14 steps, and he says that darshan is like number 13 after prema. You know, I'm not saying Indra has prema, but at the same time he's an extremely exalted soul because he was able to touch Sri Krishna's feet in Vrindavan at the behest of Surabhi. You know, that was the result of the Govardhan Leela for him. So he's not somebody that we should just jump out and, you know, call a rascal. But if something happens earlier in the Bhagavatam, like maybe when he disrespected his guru, maybe that's Indra as a materialist. And maybe that's in a different kalpa when he's not a devotee. I can only, you know, Prabhupada encourages philosophical speculation insofar as it is grounded in the Shastra. So I can't say I'm right, but it's a possibility. I hope that answers.
Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you for the class. Very wonderful class. The only indication this is appreciation of you blessing us with your presence here in Chicago, because the only indication that you haven't been in Christian consciousness since you came out the womb is that your name is Bhakta Josh. And of course, devotees don't like to talk about themselves, but it's pretty amazing. We see in the scriptures, there's so many pastimes that an indication of one's seniority is not dependent on one's position or age, it's one's gratitude, one's sincerity. And you've only been reading the book since 2011.
Let's keep this about the Bhagavatam. Come on. It's not.
Anyway, I appreciate it. I will argue, I won't say anything further but I will argue that Bhakti Tirtha Swami told Radhanath Swami, this is not your story, it's a story to inspire others. So when we hear about devotees, naturally that can inspire us in our Krishna
But that's
consciousness.
Bhakti Tirtha Swami and Radhanath Maharaj.
So there will be no further
They're
glorification of you,
practically
but
pure devotees.
I appreciate your service here and coming to Chicago, and thank you very much. You had many points in your class that were very profound. Some of them which were over my head, but I could appreciate them. But one thing, maybe you can answer a couple of points. One thing that I really appreciate your point was when you brought up that Lord Brahma, why was Krishna more angry at Brahma than Indra? Because Indra, first of all, was more or less inspired by Krishna to bring the devotees together, and Brahma separated devotees.
Yeah.
And so there's a nice quote that says, I think it's from Aesop's Fables. You may have heard this quote before. It's
Maybe
a very
not the
famous
quote.
one, but I just recently read it maybe a few weeks ago, and I discovered it's actually originally from Aesop's Fables. And it basically says that when a stick, it's individual, you can break it easily. But when you try to break a bundle of sticks, they're unbreakable.
Prabhupada spoke this also.
Yeah, exactly. So I've heard it many times before, many people say it. And so one thing a lot of times when we have devotee sangha, there's a lot of disagreement sometimes. And one thing I would say I appreciate about some of these pastimes of Prahlad disagreeing with Hiranyakashipu, or Narada Muni disagreeing with Daksha when he was trying to instruct Daksha's sons. There were some disagreements, but why was Hiranyakashipu and Daksha miserable and Prahlad and Narada Muni so happy? Naturally, when there's disagreements, that means we don't stick together, that means we break up. And one of the things that came to mind from all these pastimes is that the great saints, they always stick together, meaning they may not agree with a personality, but they always stick together by praying for their well-being. And as long as we stick together by praying for each other's well-being and not praying that we fall down because of some disagreement, because in this verse it mentions Krishna knows everything. So sometimes when we're approaching disagreements, Krishna is free from the web of material existence. We don't know everything, so we don't know whether or not our decision is right or not. But that's not the point. The point is one thing I appreciate about these saints, that they're always sticking together regardless of the disagreements, praying for their well-being. And maybe you could expand on these points, but before you expand on these points, I'll share one quote. I'm glad it's actually kind of relates to this class, so maybe you could expand on this. And it says, regarding praying for each other's well-being, it says, no man is greater than his prayer life. The pastor who is not praying is playing. The people who are not praying are straying. We have many organizers, but few agonizers. Many players and payers, few prayers. Many singers, few clingers. Lots of pastors, few wrestlers. Many fears, few tears. Much fashion, little passion. Many interferers, few intercessors. Many writers, but few fighters. Failing here, we fail everywhere. So my question is, how can we stick together by always praying for each other's well-being, especially when there's some criticism coming towards us, some disagreement? So how can we maintain our integrity in praying and sticking together for each other's well-being?
In a very simple way, keep our mouths shut. The simplest way that we can, like I was saying earlier, Ramanujacharya, he said if you can't do anything else, then go sit with the Vaishnavas and render menial service. So at the end of the day, we're supposed to cultivate humility. I am not of any worth at the end of the day. My only worth is that I've come in touch with the Vaishnavas. So one problem that we have, or some people have, or that pervades our society because it's very big, is we have a disjointed idea of what sadhu sangha means. Sadhu sangha does not mean I come together with other people generally, because the only people I can tolerate are people who are below me or who are somewhat equal to me, but I still subtly think I'm better than, and discuss our problems and discuss politics and discuss, you know, this thing and that thing and this devotee's, you know, uselessness and that devotee's uselessness, or this how much I respect this devotee because he's you know, stood up to that devotee who was trying to do this or that. We have a disjointed idea that this means sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means going to a Vaishnava that is greater than me and just being grateful to be in his association and taking that. And then insofar as we become qualified through that process, we can share with others what we've learned and what we know. But a Vaishnava's natural tendency is to be humble. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, when they first saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they said a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's heartbreakingly beautiful. This, all the verses escaping me, the Sanskrit. It's in Rupa Goswami's Padyabha. I only know that because Prabhupada writes it in the purport. Oh my God, what is it? Kim Bruve Purushottama. Oh, it's right there. Papadma. Naparadi Chakaschana. Matulyo Nasti Papadma. I just said the second line. Matulyo Nasti Papatma. No. Matulyo Nasti Papatma. Na Paradi Chakaschana. Pari Hare Pilhajame Kim Bruve Purushottama. Matulyo Nasti Papatma. You will never, if you search everywhere, find a person who is more sinful than I am. Papa means sin. Atma means one who is their constitution is sinful. My soul is sinful is a poetic way of saying it. Well, we all know a soul isn't sinful, but this is them revealing their heart. Na paradi chakaschana. And of aparadis, I am the greatest. Mind you, this is Rupa and Sanatan speaking. Pari hare pilajame. And I'm so ashamed. Laja means like deep shame. Kim bruve purushottama. Kim means what? Bruve purushottama. When I approach you, Lord, and I try to think about my sinful activities, just to admit them to you, what can I say? I can't even bring words to them. So obviously, I'm not on this platform. Maybe you're on this platform. But most sadhakas are not on this platform. But it's what we aspire to. We can look at wonderful devotees like Mother Yamuna or like Jayananda Prabhu. If somebody would bring an argument to them, they would just immediately say, oh, I'm really sorry, you're right. You're completely right. Argument over. Even if they're not right. Unless you're in a position of authority. Unless you have devotees underneath you depending on you to protect their welfare. You have no real reason to fight back with anybody unless it's our, we're satisfying our ego. So our process is supposed to curtail the ego. But what we see in many cases is the ego isn't curtailed. We look for every opportunity to find devotees we disagree with and fight. Why? Because it's tasty. We don't inherently taste transcendental things. But controversy, politics, gossip, they're tasty. I like very much speaking about these things, but I recognize that I don't want to like it anymore. And that's the beginning. So again, it's a matter of meditation, that I have this thing and I want to give it up. Let me give it up. But we never go away. If we go away, that's one thing you said, it's not quite correct. It's not proper to go away and then just pray for their welfare. Because if we go away and we just pray for their welfare, we're not getting Sangha. And what are we praying for? In those times, if we get in an argument and then we pray for somebody's welfare, we're thinking that, oh, let them be guided to see the truth that I was trying to explain to them. Let them, it's so rooted in ego. We have to keep going around the devotees, and we just have to introspect on, how am I screwing this situation up? How am I the problem here? Because any suffering we feel, we can be the only cause of that. That's how karma works. And actually, devotees aren't even under the influence of karma. Practically at the stage of bhajana kriya, karma goes away. You get initiated and you start practicing, and there is no more karma. Itatenu kampam sushimikshimano. You're dealing with Krishna personally, presenting your problems to you in a way that they will become the steps to your advancement, very fast steps towards your advancement. So if we look at our devotional life and we're constantly encountering problems and difficulties, and we're barred from advancement, and we just wish if I could be in a better situation, this is actually a subtle form of atheism. Because you don't have faith that Krishna is presenting me the perfect way for me to make advancement at any one moment. I'm not saying that I live up to that standard. Oftentimes I fail the standard, but this is our philosophy. At every moment, Krishna is providing the perfect opportunity for us to advance very fast. The only one getting in the way is our ego. So we have to overcome that. You talked about Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu, and you talked about Daksha and Narada Muni. One thing, I've never heard those incidences described as sadhu sangha. Because even though Hiranyakashipu is a devotee, there was no kata, there was no shravanam, kirtanam. He was playing the part of a demon, and he was under the spell of Maya, insofar as that he wanted to kill Prahlad, he wanted to kill Vishnu, he wanted to kill. So I've never heard it described as sadhu sangha. For Daksha and Narada Muni, I can't speak so much because I don't remember all of the details, but it may be that Daksha wasn't even presented really as much of a devotee. Karma kandis in Vedic times, when things were more proper, they worship Vishnu. They do all these things. They do the sacrifices, but they're not bhaktas. Daksha may be a bhakta. I don't know. I don't think we have an identity for him, though, presented to us. So you gave a very broad kind of question thing, so I answered in a very broad, wild way. I'm happy I was able to catch it, because I have some difficulty sometimes with catching, so much information, but thank you.
Can I mention one brief comment and appreciate your point that
Please.
With Prabhupada, I really appreciate that point where you're saying when we pray for others, it's generally rooted in ego. I need to pray for you because you need help. But a pastime that's often discussed in Kishore many times.
Can you just say one more time, because I was smelling the flower and I lost it.
I really appreciate your point, because usually when we say, let me pray for others, it's generally speaking, running the most is rooted in ego. I need to pray for you because you need help, you should have listened to me. And so there's one pastime that's been discussed in Bhagavatam throughout many years. I've heard many devotees discuss it. I don't know the reference, they usually don't reference it, but one time, Prabhupada gave many lectures saying, the great Mahatmas, Paramahamsas, they never fall down. He gave emphasized his point. And so one day, one of Prabhupada's disciples saw Prabhupada facing and praying to the deities. And Prabhupada was praying audibly, apparently, very silently. And the devotee heard him. Prabhupada was like, Lord, please, I pray that I don't fall down.
Yeah. I heard it that the devotee asked Prabhupada afterwards, what were you praying for?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then he said, I would pray that, that I may not fall under the sway of Maya.
Absolutely.
But same thing.
Yeah, so I appreciate that point. So.
Yeah, so that's an example. Just like this verse by Rupa and Sanatan, you have Srila Prabhupada, there's no question of falling down. But still, he's praying that at any moment I can get swept away by Maya. At any moment. The ultimate conclusion is, I'm only surviving on your mercy. So that means I have here's one. So Prabhupada was with some hippies in LA, or in San Francisco when they had the whole hippie hill and the Grateful Dead scene in Haight-Ashbury. And he was in the temple, and one time, because they would come and they would be high on acid and they would be, doing so many drugs, and so sometimes it would just be pandemonium, And Prabhupada, he got really agitated because some of these hippies were doing some wild things, and so he started saying, like, he got visibly agitated, and he was like, you can't do that, and please leave, and this. And one of the hippies walked up to him and said, Swamiji, don't get angry. You should just chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada just took his beads and walked away and started chanting Hare Krishna. He didn't fight, he just, whatever. Anyway, so like that. But for us, we have to just keep in mind that I'm lucky to be here. No devotee, any devotee that agitates us is there to purify us. He's Krishna's little blessing for us. That's hard, but that's the truth. So anyway, I think I'll stop here because I'm holding you guys. It's already 9 o'clock. Forgive me. Yeah, I was a little scatterbrained. Yeah. Jai Ho. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Kishore Kishore ki jai, Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai.